That is exactly the question the world is asking right now after Iran's Revolutionary Guard seized commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most strategically important choke points in global trade. In a region already filled with war, retaliation, and high-stakes diplomacy, this latest move is not just a maritime incident. It is a warning signal for the entire world economy. Because when shipping lanes are disrupted in the Strait of Hormuz, the shock is not limited to the Middle East. Oil prices, shipping insurance, supply chains, and military tensions can all rise in a matter of hours. And that is why this story matters far beyond the ships themselves. Let's break this down clearly. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the narrowest and most sensitive passages for global energy transport. A huge share of the world's oil and gas flows through this corridor, which means any military action here immediately grabs the attention of governments, markets, and naval forces around the world. Reports say Iranian forces boarded and seized commercial vessels in the area, with footage showing armed personnel descending from a helicopter onto a ship. According to the reports, Iran justified the action by claiming the vessels violated maritime rules or interfered with navigation systems. But the broader reality is that this happened in a climate of soaring regional tension, where every move is interpreted as part of a much larger power struggle. The timing of these seizures is what makes the story even more serious. These incidents came at a moment when the region was already under intense strain from conflict involving Iran, Israel, the United States, and Iran-aligned groups in the Red Sea and beyond. Previous reporting has shown how maritime warfare has become part of Iran's regional strategy, especially through allied forces like the Houthis, who have repeatedly disrupted shipping routes in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. That means this is not an isolated event. It is part of a pattern. Iran has increasingly used maritime pressure as a political and military tool, especially when it wants to signal strength, respond to perceived attacks, or raise the cost of confrontation for its rivals. And once ships begin being seized in such a critical waterway, the message is simple. The region is no longer just unstable, it is actively combustible. To understand why this matters, imagine the global economy as a giant bloodstream. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the arteries that keeps energy flowing. If that artery narrows, even briefly, the entire system feels the pressure. Tankers may delay departures, insurers may raise rates, and shipping companies may reroute or pause operations until they know the area is safe again. That is why these seizures are bigger than headlines. They create uncertainty. And in global trade, uncertainty is expensive. This is also why the Red Sea crisis and the Strait of Hormuz crisis are linked in many analysts' eyes. The Houthis have already shown how attacks on commercial shipping can force the world to rethink trade routes, military patrols, and insurance costs. Iran's alliance with such groups gives it strategic depth and a wider pressure network across the region. What Iran gains. So what is Iran trying to achieve? First, it is signaling that it can disrupt global shipping if it wants to. Second, it is reminding adversaries that it has leverage not just on land, but at sea. Third, it is attempting to shape negotiations and deter future attacks or sanctions by showing that escalation can go both ways. In other words, Iran does not need to win a naval war to make an impact. It only needs to make shipping companies, energy markets, and foreign governments nervous enough to change behavior. That is the real power of maritime coercion. And this is why the Strait of Hormuz has always been more than a geographic point on the map. It is a pressure valve for international politics. When that valve tightens, every player from Washington to Riyadh to New Delhi to Brussels feels it. Global reactions. Now let's talk about the likely reactions. The United States and its allies typically view such seizures as direct threats to freedom of navigation. That means there is likely to be more naval monitoring, more diplomatic pressure, and potentially more protective measures for commercial vessels moving through the area. In the past, similar maritime crises have led to stronger patrols, rerouting decisions, and emergency consultations among shipping operators. For the shipping industry, the immediate concern is risk. A vessel does not have to be physically destroyed for the damage to be felt. Even the possibility of harassment, boarding, or interception is enough to disrupt schedules and increase costs. For ordinary viewers, that might sound distant, but the effects can show up in fuel prices, shipping delays, and the cost of imported goods. A crisis in one narrow waterway can ripple through ports, markets, and supply chains far from the Middle East. The bigger pattern. Here's the bigger truth. Maritime conflict is becoming one of the defining features of modern geopolitics. It is no longer just about armies and borders. It is about shipping routes, choke points, drone threats, missile threats, sabotage, cyber risks, and the ability to impose costs without launching a full-scale war. The Red Sea campaign showed how non-state and state-linked actors can turn trade routes into political battlegrounds. The Strait of Hormuz seizures show that the same logic still applies at one of the world's most dangerous maritime crossroads. This is not just about Iran versus its enemies. It is about the fragile architecture of global commerce.